you and the other organizations there see as the next steps in Washington? Obviously, USDA will consider the comments and then come out with a final rule. What do you think may happen in Congress to support that or oppose that?
I think we may see some antagonism and opposition from certain members of the Congress, and I would invite Dr. Peter Carstensen, who is on the phone, or David Domna, either one, to speak to that, but I don't have a good feel for what's going to happen on the Hill. We have already had a pretty vigorous pounding, if you will, of the GIPSA rules and GIPSA personnel by a subcommittee of the House Agricultural Committee. They expressed open hostility, and in my view, were very abusive. We have an incoming chair of the House Ag Committee who's already made it abundantly clear that he's got a lot of problems with these rules, and he intends to go after them, in so many words. But hopefully these rules will become final after, with maybe some modification of some of them. We do not have to have congressional action. The Department of Agriculture has the authority to implement the rules. They are the administrator of this law. Supposedly, they are to receive deference from the courts in their interpretation, and it would be my view that there's absolutely nothing in these rules that are not consistent with a reasonable interpretation of the Packers and Stockyards Act. So it's a question of whether the Department of Agriculture will assert its authority and act on itself, or whether it will yield to pressure from certain people on the Hill who are known to be associated with the point of view of the big packers.
Okay. Just to follow up, when do you think the USDA will have its final rules?
That's a wonderfully open question. We are getting, as you know, an enormous number of comments. They've got to go through all those comments, digest them, have some sense of what they're being told. There have been some problems that have surfaced with at least some aspects of the rules, so that they're going to have to fine-tune those rules. And so it will be certainly several months at the earliest. I think it will also depend a little bit on the priorities of the Secretary of Agriculture himself as to how quickly rules get announced. That is, if the boss says, I want the rules, be out pretty soon, I'd say 3-4 months after the comment period closes. If the Secretary is involved on other matters, it's going to take could take a lot longer.
I do. A national industry organization has come out from the beginning opposing this GIPSA rule. And as their arguments have been refuted and shown that there's no cost to some of the issues that they're bringing up, they've come with the tactic of saying that an economic analysis must be conducted immediately, and until that is completely done and the findings are out, that this rule process should be stopped.
The proposed GIPSA rule actually does provide an economic analysis. It finds 3 separate costs that the packers will bear as a result of this rule. The first cost is administrative cost, the second cost is cost of analysis, and the third cost is an adjustment cost. The cost of the packers adjusting their conduct in the marketplace to ensure that they are in full compliance with the Act. To the extent that the packers do bear costs to adjust their conduct in order to be in compliance with the Act, those costs are associated with the 90-year-old Packers and Stockyards Act, not associated with the rule, because the rule merely clarifies the packers' responsibilities and obligations to a competitive marketplace. And so the analysis that has been done for the administrative, the first 2 then in its final rule to include its final analysis of the total cost of the rule. So we firmly believe this is nothing but a stall tactic, similar to what was done in the country of origin labeling that delayed the implementation of that important law for over 6.5 years.
You guys characterize this as a battle between ranchers and meat packers, but the next press conference at 10:30 is also a bunch of meat producers who will say that, look, they're doing fine in this marketplace. They've figured out a way to negotiate it, and now you guys want to come and change the rules and turn back the clock and hurt their business because you haven't just adapted the way that they have. How do you respond to that?
Well, I think Bill has already said a lot toward that, and there's certainly a question in my mind of just who some of the people you refer to represent. But in any event, I think maybe Bill, maybe Dave, Tom, do you have anything to speak, to say on that subject? Are you still on?
Yes, I'm here, and I'd like to comment briefly. Sir, I would say, first of all, that the support that the groups you refer to have comes primarily from people who are engaged in contract delivery of meat-bearing animals to packers. They're contract arrangements that are neither public nor consistent with the cash market. After the USDA's listening session in Fort Collins in August, the head of a 350,000 head one-time capacity feeding company was asked to describe the market in the Texas Panhandle. He said the market has 4 active buyers. But 1 minute later, he disclosed that his company sells 100% of its cattle to one company under a private contract arrangement.